Praise God. Amen and amen. God is on the throne, and prayer changes things. Father, we praise you this morning in the sanctuary. We thank you for who you are and what you have given us by your word and by your spirit. You've given us salvation. You've given us hope. You've given us life and that eternal. Anoint your servant this morning, O God, that bring forth this word, that the people that hear, eyes might be open, their heart may receive. In Jesus' name we pray, and for his name's sake, amen. You may all be seated. This morning I thought I'd share a simple message. Simple because God made it so simple that anyone, even a child, could understand. Genesis 1. Verse 1. What a simple message God has given us in his word.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
God started the written word with a truth that even a child could understand. That there was a beginning. Not for God, but for heaven and earth. God does not put the time or the date. He just says, in the beginning. And so we have in the world that we live in, people trying to begin to understand, or not begin to, people that try to pretend that they can tell you what was the beginning when it comes to heaven and earth. God decided not to put the date, nor the time. He just said it happened in the beginning. And when you stay within the confines of what God says, you can't get in trouble. But outside of the confinement of what God said, that is his word, men had debated and argued for centuries. When did it happen? How did it happen? They even argue now, who did it? But God said in verse 1, he did it. And he did it in the beginning. Now today, what I want to talk about is not this beginning. I don't want to talk about the beginning of the heaven and earth, where there was no date and there was no time. I want to talk about the heaven and the earth that does have time, which is separate from the beginning. Let's continue to read verse 2. Genesis 1, verse 2.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Continue.
And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
Now, in this particular verse, again, people will debate it. What happened? What happened to the earth? That darkness was upon his face, or face of the deep. And why was it necessary for God's Spirit to move over the waters? And so the theologians and the philosophers, they go outside their boundaries. Why? God does not put any detail in verse 2. So I'm not going to try to put any details to verse 2. I'm going to go to the simplicity of what God said in verse 3.
And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Continue.
And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
When I was a young man, my parents sent me to, before I went to public school, I went to Catholic, what we would call today, not daycare, but Sunday school. So every Sunday that I went to church, before the Mass, because I was Catholic, we went down to the basement where they had all of the different classrooms. And as a young boy, I learned Genesis 1, verse 1. I learned in Sunday school, y'all, that God created the heaven and the earth. Now, this was before I would attend public school, and they would teach me other things about creation. But God decided that my life, he would lay a foundation that he created the heaven and the earth. And I learned in Sunday school, before I went to public school, that God said, let there be light. And God saw that light. And God separated that light from the darkness. And God gave names to it. The light called he day. And the darkness called he night. Now, later on, I would go to public school, and they would tell me about this. Well, I didn't have this thing called science until later on in public school. In other words, in kindergarten, there was no science. In first grade, there was no science. In second grade, there was no science. In third grade, there was no science. See, I wasn't going to get science until as I got deeper into the grades. But when I finally got into the science, they told me back then when I was young that science was something that was observable. It was repeatable and demonstratable. Now, as I got older, that definition of science changed. Today, science does not have to be observable. It does not have to be repeatable. And you don't have to demonstrate it. I believe one of the reasons they changed the definition of science is because God's creation is observable. God's creation is repeatable. And God decided to demonstrate creation. Oh, I love this, y'all. God decided to demonstrate creation every day for anyone that was in the world. So I want to give you an example on the first day of creation. On the first day of creation, God made, there's 4 things or 6 things mentioned here in the first day of creation. Let's see what they are. There is light, there's darkness, then it's the giving of names of light, day and night, and there's 2 other things that most people don't see. And the evening and the morning was the first day. So what we have here is, you're gonna love this, y'all. You have day and night and evening and morning. And God said, I want you to hear this. Look in Romans chapter 1. The book of Romans chapter 1. I want, my goodness, I moved my verse out of its place. And so, Romans 1:19 and verse 20.
Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. So
God starts Genesis 1 off with something that he wanted to make sure that it would manifest to the whole world. And God wanted to show his power in creation by demonstrating it every day. And so what I present to you today, and what I'm going to present to you, is how wise God was so that no one could ever dispute his creation. Continue to read.
For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen.
So the things that are invisible that you don't understand are still seen, and they are clearly seen. Ben, go ahead, please.
Being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power in Godhead.
So God made something. God did something. God demonstrated day, night, evening, and morning. Now, this is what I would say to the scientists of the day that are outside the boundaries. Science try to tell you what day is made of. Is it helium? Is it oxygen? You know, so when they study the stars, they try to tell you what a star is made of. Well, God never told us what the star was made of. He just said he made the star. In science, they constantly try to tell you when something was made, what it's made of, how it's made. God decided, I'm not giving all of those details. So Christians, sometimes they fall into a trap where they try to explain the things that God didn't explain. And so, but this is what Christians can do. They can go and say to anyone, have you ever seen day and night? And evening and morning? The question is, everybody and anyone that have eyes that can see the first day of creation. You're not going to believe this, but you can see the first day of creation every day. Yes. I'm going to say this one more time. I told you this was going to be a simple message today. Look how simple Christianity is. God said, I'm going to create something, and the first thing he created, he says, I want you to see it every day. So every day, we cannot deny day and night, evening and morning. We can't deny it. And so imagine me being in a courtroom and people say, how can you prove God exists? And I say, today. And they say, that's a crazy answer. I say, no, you don't understand. I can prove God exists today. Why? Because it's day. There's day and night and even and morning. And you can't stop the first thing God created on the first day. You can't break the laws that you do not understand. I want you to hear. Because scientists say they had to explain how day and night come. So they got the earth going around and turning and twisting. But as you can see, there is no earth, but there is day and night. So Christians who believe that the day and night is formed by the earth spinning, they actually don't understand the scriptures. There is no heaven on day one. There is no earth on day one. There's no stars. There's no sun. There's no moon. There's just something that you see every day. In other words, if you was to take the sun out of the sky, if you was to take the earth out of the ocean, if you was to remove everything that's coming behind what God said, you can't eliminate day and night. You can't eliminate evening and morning. In other words, you could see day and night, evening and morning, without all of the other things. Because God didn't create the other things yet. He only created day and night, evening and morning. It took him a day to do it. Why? He said because the evening and the morning was the first day. And God says, forget that part where it says he created in the beginning. I'm not talking about what he did in the beginning. I ain't talking about the first thing he did when he made something and called it day. The first time the word day is ever mentioned is the first day. And so for us, Christians like myself, the world that we live in started on the first day. It did not start in the beginning. Because the world we live in, there's day and night and evening and morning ever since the first day. No one can argue with me because I can prove any day that there's day. I can prove every day that there's night. I can prove every day there's evening and morning. So no one can tell me the simplicity that I found in the scriptures that God created the first day. He didn't create the first day in the beginning because God was standing there when he was creating day. He already had some time before he created the first day. So the first day was not created in the beginning. It was created the day God says day and night and evening and morning. And God called, and I want you to hear this. God did this so he always wanted everybody to know that the first thing he created was day. But he didn't create it in the beginning. So this is a day and time for us where God says, I'm going to start with the first day. I'm going to get this thing running. So let's go back to Genesis and we're going to get this thing running. Why? Remember I told you, I learned something as a child that no school or textbook could ever remove from my knowledge. In other words, when I went to public school, they tried to tear down what God did in Genesis 1. And as a young boy, I refused to go along with their version of creation or reality. Because the reality that I learned in Sunday school at St. Luke's Catholic Church in Northeast Washington, D.C., that truth is still true today. Genesis 1, starting there on the second part. Verse 6.
And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day.
So on the second day, which is the day after the first day, God creates some other things. Now, he doesn't create day again. Hey, how many there? Because he already created a day. Now, every day after that day, he's counting. So what did God do after he created the first day? He said, now that I have a day, let me tell you what I did on the second day. What did you do on the second day? Did you create a second day? No. Because I want everything in a day repeated, including day. So God says, now I want to add something to day and night and evening and morning. So what do? He has water above and water beneath, and he puts an expanse between the waters. So he separated, notice what it says, he separated water from water. And in the midst of the water, there was the separation. What we would call space. There was a space now between the water. He separated the waters from above, from the water beneath, and he put an expanse or a firmament or the sky or space. In other words, you can call it whatever you like, but you don't change the reality. Now, I want y'all to listen to this second day. Because if I was standing in front of a scientist today and debating these people, I would have to tell them all God's creation is observable, demonstratable, and repeatable. So I said to them, can I take you outside? I can show everybody the first day because there will be day and night and even in the morning. Now, you're not going to believe this, y'all. You actually not going to believe this. Do you know I can show everybody day 2 every day? Every day there's a sky. You're not going to believe it. The sky comes back every day. And above in the sky, there's clouds. There's water above. You ain't going to believe that. There's water above and there's water beneath. What? Wait a minute, God. Why would you teach me that as a child? Because God knew that I could go outside as a little boy and I can see what he did on the second day every day. Now I want you to keep up with me, y'all. So on the first day, there's day and night and even in the morning. God knew that every day I could see day and night, even in the morning. And then he said, now I want you to see this every day. That there's a sky, there's clouds above, and there's water beneath. So far, I want you to know that God says they are without excuse. Because the creation of God is observable, repeatable, and demonstratable. So day 2, y'all, is repeated. You ain't gonna believe this. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. So let's take out on the chalkboard here and say, okay, day 1. So every Christian who listened to my message today, you have no shame to the Creator who created days. Because God wanted you to be able to tell anybody who questioned you and your belief, you be able to walk them outside and can show them day 1, every day. Day 2, every day. Cool. So let's continue to read and go to the third day.
And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear.
Oh, so for the first time, he introduced the dry land. Now, do you know every day that you can go out and you can show people dry land? You're not going to believe how observable this is. You're not going to believe how demonstratable this is. You don't know this, but you can repeat it every day. So continue to read, please.
And it was so. And God called the dry land earth.
Do you know every day you can call any friend you want and say, I'd like to show you something. If you will step outside, you will step on this thing called earth. Do you know they can step outside every day and stand on the earth? Now, notice what he said the earth is surrounded by. Because it came out of water, that means water completely encompasses it. Do you know that every continent is completely encompassed and encircled by water? Do you know you can prove that every day? Do you know that God demonstrated, y'all, every day? So every day he repeats, the earth is in the water. Y'all ready for this? There's a sky. There's clouds above. There's water beneath. There's morning and evening and day and night. Hold on, we ain't done with the third day yet, y'all. Let's see what else God decided to do. Because now it seems like God is picking up steam. It's like God is having fun. You know, the first day ain't look like he did much. Day and night. And the evening and morning first day. Second day he had a little bit more. He separated the waters from above, from the waters beneath, and he put the firmament up in the midst of the heavens. And, you know, I ain't going to the details of the firmament yet, but later on you're going to see it's a little deeper than just the word firmament. Okay, so let's go back to the earth, y'all. Watch the earth. You're going to love this, y'all.
And the gathering together of the waters called he seas.
What we would call oceans. So we got the Pacific Ocean, we got the Atlantic Ocean, we got the Indian Ocean. I mean, we got all of these things called oceans. That word seas there today would be called our oceans. Because not all oceans have the same complexity of their water. God knew that he had different types of water. So at one time he had all the waters together. But later on, he's going to change how the earth is. Well, I don't think I'm going to get to that part because I want to stick to just these days in Genesis. You know, the stuff that I learned in Sunday school as a little boy. I want to stick to the stuff that if you teach your child, if anybody in school, professor, I don't care what his degree, I don't care what his title, your son's 5 years old can walk the professor up and say, see God? And that professor will say, where's God? And he can say, God said. And God said. He can point to everything that God said. He can point to the earth and say, God said. He can point to the clouds. The little 5-year-old can point to the clouds and say, God said. He can point to, it's day. It's afternoon. God said. The little 5-year-old, he ain't even got a degree yet. He's 5 years old like I was. Saying to people who were trying to teach me something else, God said. Let's continue to read.
And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass.
So watch this. God, before he says what the earth to do, he said, that's pretty good. Then you have to watch God, man. He's talking to someone. Later on, we're going to find out he's talking to people that are standing there while he's doing all this. But God says to the people that's watching him, that was pretty good. God is good, y'all. I mean, he's a creator. He creates something, and he makes sure he has an audience. God is something. He don't want to create something. Ain't nobody there to sit there and witness it. So God got these people there watching what he's doing, and he says, and he turns to them, he says, that was good. So the first day God turned to this group of people, that it's in the book of Job. I don't want to turn there yet. He turns to the first, he said, that's good. And they said, well, what are you going to do tomorrow? He said, I won't go nowhere. And he does the second day, and he turns to the same group, and he says, that was good. Because they don't know what he's going to do from day to day. All they know is whatever day he does, it repeats itself. Every day, the next day. Wow. So whatever he does on the day, once he does it, it repeats itself. I want you to hear God, y'all. See, this is what he says. Is there a God like me? I don't know. I don't know. I ain't met nobody can do what I do, and it repeats itself every day. Wow. It repeats itself every day. Continue. So now that he says it's good, he does something that he hasn't done on all the other days yet.
And God said, let the earth bring forth grass.
So he speaks to the earth. See, he ain't done that in the other days. He's never spoken to any of the entities in a way that the witnesses heard him say anything. So he said, let the earth bring forth. What did the earth bring forth?
Grass.
Okay, you ain't gonna believe this. But at 5 years old, I could tell my teacher, come outside and I could show them some grass. And it was there every day. Matter of fact, it's so bad, you gotta cut it. It just won't go away, y'all. Y'all not gonna hear this. God said, let it bring forth grass. Now, this word here means all types of grass. And so, to this day, do you know it's repeatable? Do you know it's observable? Do you know it's demonstratable? Come on, watch this.
The herb yielding seed and the fruit tree yielding fruit.
So he tells me whatever grows has a seed to repeat it. And how many of you know I go to Lowe's and Home Depot? You ain't gonna believe this, but I buy grass seeds. that came from the grass. I take the seeds. He said, in the earth, I take the seed. It's amazing what the earth can do for that seed. I plant the seed in the earth, and the seed don't come up. The grass come up. And the seed is in the earth. Tell people that's repeatable.
It's repeatable.
That's demonstratable. And it's observable.
It's observable.
Continue to read.
And the fruit tree yielded
Oh, you
fruit.
ain't gonna believe this. I got about 44 fruit trees on my property. I got apples, I got pears, I got peaches. I got all these fruit trees. And you ain't gonna believe that. Those fruit trees bring forth fruit. Do you know that's repeatable? Do you know every season the fruit come? The pears come. The oranges come. And guess what's in the pears? You ain't gonna believe what's in the pear. In the pear is a seed. Not one seed. In one pear, there are so many seeds that can give me a tree, that give me so many pears. In other words, how did God made it more than repeatable? Now God is showing off. I told you. See, God is showing off now because this is the first time that God says, I want to create something that has the seed in itself, that is so many of them that they can produce with everything what they came out, and it keeps repeating itself. I want it to be observed. I want it to be repeatable, and I want to demonstrate that I did it. So we have farmers, y'all. You don't believe these farmers getting rich on this thing. You see, farmers figured this out. Farmers figured out that they could take anything like vegetables. They could take one tomato, and grow a whole farm of tomatoes from one tomato. They knew that if they get one tomato, they could get all of the seeds out of the one tomato, plant each one of those seeds that would bring forth multiple tomatoes from that one seed, and out of those tomatoes had multiple seeds. So do you have any idea how many tomatoes you can get from one tomato? Because God said, let me give them something that is demonstratable, observable, and repeatable. Let me give it to them in vegetables. Let me give it to them in fruit trees. Continue to read, please.
After his kind, whose seed is in itself.
And God said, I want every seed only to produce what it is. Do you know that's repeatable? Do you know no one has ever grown an orange from an apple seed? Do you know that a tomato seed has never produced a cucumber? Do you know God says, I want this repeatable, and I want everybody that I created to stay in your own order. I don't want any of y'all to imitate anybody else you see. So the tomato can be grown right next to a cucumber. But he said, I can't repeat you. Oh, I like how good you look. You're long and you're slim, and I'm all fat and round. But you know what? God told me to stay in my order. You know the apple, no matter how different it is from the pear, the apple tree can be next to the pear tree. But he says, God told me to stay in my order, stay in my place, so that I can continue to repeat what he started first. I don't want to change. In other words, when you don't mess with what God did, it never changes. But man is constantly trying to change what God said and what God did to try to make God a liar. Let's continue to read, because I don't want to get on about man. I want to talk about God.
And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
Wait a minute. So then God said, so this day get what, y'all? 2 goods. Y'all didn't notice that, did y'all? This day get 2 goods. All the other days, they just got 1 good. God's footwork now, he's doing double footwork now, y'all. You know, and then, so watch this. The 5-year-old child can go to school, no matter what grade that child goes, and as he go from the first grade all the way to college, he can stand on God's word because it's repeatable, it's observable, and it's demonstrable. So far, y'all, I have given you 3 days of creation, and all 3 days you can see every day and any day that you can talk and take someone out who don't believe in God and say, let me tell you what God said and what God did. Because what God says is repeatable. What God said is demonstrable, and what God said is observable. So far we have shown that everything in day 1, day 2, and day 3 meets that criteria. Can we then go to day 4?
And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Go ahead.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth.
So I want you to hear this. I'm gonna finish the part of it, but I want you to hear. We're getting to the 4th day, and then God said He put lights. And so I want you to always remember what God called them. God called them lights, illuminaries. And He tells us that the illuminaries He's going to share that they don't have the same type of light. So look what God said He put the lights at. He said, I put them in the firmament of the heaven. He didn't put lights in the ocean. He didn't put these lights on the earth. He said, I put them in the sky. So that every day, that 5-year-old boy that came out of St. Luke's Sunday school, that would be me, y'all, could say to anybody who said to me, why did you believe in God? I would be able in day or night to show them lights. Because what God said, watch this.
And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
Continue.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so.
Continue.
And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
I know y'all not going to believe this. But do you know day 4 is repeatable? Do you know day 4 is observable? Do you know day 4 is demonstrable? In other words, every day God demonstrates by saying, if you go out in the daytime, I got a greater light. God said, if you go out in the nighttime, I got a lesser light and I got stars also. Do you know that y'all not going to believe this? I know you're not going to believe that, but the sun is in the sky every day. But do you know the sun ain't never been on the night side? And then there's this lesser light, we call the moon, and the stars. And this is an amazing thing. He got these lights that you can go out every night and show people the stars and the moon. So that means day 4 is repeatable. Day 4 is demonstratable. And day 4 is observable. So far, God is rolling. God has worked on 4 days, and all 4 days are repeated every day. Y'all didn't get that part. So far, all 4 days are repeated every day. The sun comes in the daytime, the moon and the stars at nighttime, the waters, the earth, you can stand on it. I mean, there's heaven, there's water above, there's water beneath, there's day and night, there's evening and morning. I want you all to see so far. There's vegetables, there's fruits. They all reproduce after their kind. And God ain't missed a mark yet. Whatever He did back there when He started the first day happens every day since the day He did it. And the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Can we continue to go?
And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
So in the fourth day, it's repeatable, observable, and demonstrable. Can we go to day 5?
And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life.
Now, I want y'all to know something. So we on day 5, and God said, now the water didn't have nothing in it. Now God is going to put something in the water that's going to be demonstratable, observable, and repeatable. God said, let there be life in the water, moving creatures. Continue.
And fowl that may fly above the earth.
And God said, hold on. I need birds in the sky. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. That you can go outside every day and see a bird in the sky. You can go to the ocean, a river, a lake, or stream and see a fish. Or some other living thing in the water that's a moving thing. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. God is on day 5 and he ain't stopped creating things that are observable, repeatable, and demonstratable. Continue to read, please.
And fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of the heaven.
So now we have this part called the open firmament. Which means the birds can't fly in the part of the firmament that is closed. Ooh, God just introduced something by not saying anything. Did you see how God is? He didn't say anything, but he introduced something and he made you say, I hope you caught that. That the birds can't fly anywhere in the firmament. Only in the part that's open to them to fly. Which means there's a part of the firmament where there's no air. Because birds can only fly in the air. Ain't God something? Because we know now that there's parts of the firmament that doesn't have air. That's why if you get stranded high on a mountain, they can't rescue you with a helicopter. Because it needs air. And the air is so thin as you go up, it can't fly. Wow, God. Is that repeatable? Yes. Is that demonstratable? Yes. Is that observable? Yes. Continue to read.
In the open firmament of heaven, and God created great whales and
my God.
Sea creatures.
Are they still whales?
Yeah.
Are they still whales today, y'all? Yes. No, you mean they're still observable? Yes. Oh my God. Continue.
And every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind.
Oh, so a whale can't make a shark. And a shark can't make a porpoise or a dolphin. It seems like everybody stays in their boundaries. In other words, if man never interferes with God's creation, it keeps doing what it was created to do and is repeatable, observable, and demonstratable. Continue.
After their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying,
Oh, whoa, wait. God blessing them? Man, he ain't blessed nobody so far. I want y'all to hear this. He ain't blessed the tree.
Wow.
He ain't blessed day. He ain't blessed night. He ain't blessed even morning. He ain't blessed the sky. He ain't blessed the waters. He ain't blessed the earth. This is the first one he said, man, I'm blessing y'all, man. Wait a minute. So you mean this is the first group to get a blessing? Ain't good. Oh my God. Oh, I'm feeling good on this one, y'all. Why? Because then God is feeling, first he started doing things. Then he did his footwork. Then he said 2 goods in one day. Then now this is the first day he said, you know, I feel like blessing somebody. Wow. So God, I want you to see these things are blessed of God. Oh, y'all not hearing me. I want y'all to hear something. As you can see, it's getting better every day. Continue.
And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful.
Oh, wait a minute. God talking to them? Oh, y'all, that's messing y'all up. I know that'll mess everybody up. God talking to them, y'all. What is a blessing if God don't tell you about it? What is a blessing if you can't hear? God don't bless something that doesn't hear and don't understand what the blessing is. So God told them, he said something to them. And God blessed them saying. See, whatever he's saying is the blessing. Go ahead.
Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day.
Boy, have you ever seen schools of fishes? Yeah. Do you know y'all eating fish now? Some of us eat fish, and some of us eat chickens, and we eat, I mean, there's all kind of birds you can eat, you know. But the Lord said, those things y'all eating, he blessed those things. But I don't want to go there. But go ahead.
And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back to the last part of that verse. And the evening and the morning was the 5th day. So now I'm 5 years old again, y'all. I'm coming from Sunday school at St. Luke's Catholic Church in East Capitol Street, over in Northeast, Southeast Washington, whatever you went, because it's East Capitol. It's actually on the Southeast side. I'm sorry. So on the Southeast side, there I am. I'm 5 years old. I'm in school, and I'm going to be going to school every year, and they're going to keep trying to tell me what God didn't do with what I learned in Sunday school, but I can keep going outside, y'all. So far, I can go out on all 5 days and prove that I ain't listening to them. You see, I may be 5 years old, but I ain't listening to nobody when they're going to try to convince me that what I see and what's demonstrated every day, God didn't do it. And so far as a 5 years old boy, a simple understanding, a simple truth. God created heaven and the earth, and then he created something called day, and ever since that day, whatever he did is repeated every day. And so far, I want you to see that all 5 days are repeated every day in life. I'm going to say that again, y'all. All 5 days is repeated every day in life. I don't understand how they were ever to move Christians away from creation. I think because some Christians decided that they was going to think outside of the box and try to explain how God did it and why God did it and when God did it, as opposed to just staying to that which is observable, repeatable, and demonstratable. Don't ever let people get you outside the things that God did not tell you. I want to go on now to the next day.
And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
So I want you to hear this, y'all. Do you know every day you can go out and show somebody a cattle? Some people don't have to go out because they have a dog or cat inside the house. God said, let there be animals. Domestic, and what's the opposite? Wild. So he said there was wild beasts and domestic beasts. Ain't that amazing? God said there will be some beasts you can stay and keep in your house. They will come at your feet. Or they will go and gather something for you. They will fetch. They will do that. There's other ones that will be like cows that you will be able to get milk from. In other words, this is demonstratable, repeatable, and observable. Continue to read, please. Because we're on day number 6.
And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness."
Now, I want you to know that I can go out and show you a man every day. I don't want y'all to understand this. I not only can show you animals, I'm going to show you me. I'm going to show you me. Now, hold on. Watch this. Go ahead. God said, let us make man in our image.
And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea.
I will be able to take you to SeaWorld and show you a man with a killer whale making him jump to a loop. I'll be able to take you to a circus and watch the lion go through the same hoop. Or a bear. I will show you, I'll take you to Florida, to the Everglades, where they got alligators trained. God said, let this man have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air. Do you know we got parrots talking like us? Charlie want a cracker? Now I know that bird looking at us and say, why you keep saying that to me? Just say it, bird, so I can prove every day that God exists. So we can train every manner of beast, the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and, come on, Keturah,
over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image, and the image of God created he him. Male and female.
Oh my God, my wife Denise is here. Come here, Pastor Denise. I want y'all to see something you can see every day. Every day. Every day you can see a man and woman. It's repeatable, it's observable, and it's demonstratable. Now my kids here, but I don't want them to come forward right now the way they're looking. For the sake of their humility, I just want you to know that we produce after our own kind. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. We didn't make a monkey. We didn't make a donkey. We didn't make Mr. Funky. My wife just hit me in the side because she knows I'm getting happy. I just want you to know we demonstrated day number 6. And day number 6, all over the world, now, every second, someone new is born on the earth. That's an animal, a human, an insect, a bird, a tree, a fish, a vegetable. Let's continue to read.
And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it.
So man has had a sex problem ever since. Reproducing. God put something inside of all creation with the urge to reproduce. It doesn't matter if you're a fish. God put it in there. It doesn't matter if you're a bee. You will go from one flower to one tree to another tree. It doesn't matter if you're in a colony and you're a worker ant. You see that queen? For the survival, you'll do anything for the queen. And so God has created something that he wants to demonstrate to the world. Continues.
And subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth.
And so man is the dominant species on the earth today. On the earth, he said, let him have dominance. Man is somehow trying to get dominance above the earth. And I'm not going there. I'm sticking to creation. I'm going to stay within the boundary of what God did in 6 days. Something that any 5-year-old, if you're listening to me, I'm telling every parent to have a child. Teach your children something that is repeatable, observable, and demonstratable. Teach them what God did. Teach that child while they're young before they go to school. And that child will probably make it. Even though that child is going to be bombarded by something that is not repeatable, not demonstratable, and not observable. You can't observe a Big Bang. You can't observe monkeys becoming humans. All you can do is stick to within the confinement of truth that's repeatable, observable, and demonstratable. Continue, please.
And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree, yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat.
Continue.
And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so.
So God, for the first time, decided to limit what diet he wanted the different species to eat and stay in their boundaries. Continue.
And God saw that everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good.
Now, look what it says. This is very important. He looked and saw that everything he had made. I want you to hear this, y'all. Because this is the sixth day. And God said, when he looked back at everything he made, it was very good, because everything he made, when he looked back, was repeatable, it was observable and demonstratable every day from that day forward. That no one would ever be able to say, there is no God. Because God wanted to make sure every day said, God did all of this. But now every day has everything in it every day. Whereas when he first did this, every day he did something different. But he put everything in a day. And from that day when he put everything in a day, he said, that's very good. I want everything that I put in all of these days together that's very good, I wanted to repeat for the rest of my time, starting from the first day to the sixth day. So when we get to the sixth day, he put all the 6 days together. Now everything is going to be repeatable. Now watch this, y'all. You're going to love this. Remember where you got it from. Go ahead, Keturah.
And it was very good, and the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
So 6 days, all demonstratable, all repeatable, all observable. Continue.
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them.
So he says everything is finished. So it took God 6 days. It took God how many days, y'all? 6 days. Continue.
And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made.
Now, this is an interesting verse. It says, on the seventh day, God ended his work which he has made, because you will never see another evening, another morning, another night, and another day on the seventh day. There's never going to be an evening and a morning, because God stopped working that day. He sat down and rested. So you know what you don't see on the seventh day? Evening and morning. Do you know what you don't see on the seventh day? Day and night. God put something together that when he looked back and said, that's very good, he said, that's enough to make anybody believe. I'm going to sit down and see if anybody come to me. God is resting from that day to that day till you come. So the Bible says there's a day appointed to all men that you can be saved. That if you confess with your mouth and believe that God said and God did, God will bring you into day 7. It's called eternity. It's called the rest of God. So God sat down and said, now I'm going to send someone into the day to gather all the people who want to sit with me in eternity. There's no day and night in eternity. There's no evening and morning in eternity. There's just God sitting and waiting for us. So I'm going to end this message. I ain't have many verses. I hope you can understand. Aaron James Harley and Gloria Lorraine Harley took me to St. Luke's Catholic Church on East Capitol Street in Southeast Washington, 50th Street, 50th in Southeast Washington there. And I went down to the basement as my older sisters took me by my hand and took me into the Sunday school class. And the teacher said, in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. And then she went to tell us about the days of creation. I never stopped telling that story. And then at 67 years old, I'm still telling the story that I learned as a young little boy. May God add a blessing to the word. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you again for your presence. We thank you for a beautiful message in Genesis chapter 1. In Jesus' name, bless your people. May they have a wonderful day. And Lord, speak to us today. Words of hope and words of encouragement in light of what we're going through. Amen.